and they trade him and don't get a superstar back. But like, it's not like Kyrie went to jail.
All right, it's another edition of Hoops Adjacent on the Athletic NBA Show. David Aldridge here in DC. Marcus in the Bay.
West Side.
What the Warriors going to do, man? They're going to make a trade? What they going to do?
You know, I think they might do something, actually. They started off with this, we're not doing anything, but they're getting a bit aggressive.
Yeah. I think they might be a little active.
I mean, look, they are, and our guests will know all about this, they are getting the options available, but whether they do something is going to be above. It's going to be to the one who signs the checks, right? So, but I do feel like they're like actively trying to get some scenarios to put in front of him. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to part with him. He might sacrifice one youngster on the altar of the president, but
I don't think
it better be the right one. Yeah, no,
right.
I don't think it's happening. Right. I don't think it's happening. Right.
Let's get our guest in. That's why we have him here this week, because it's the trade deadline. We want to get in somebody that knows what that's like. Our buddy Billy King's GM,
looking all fresh, looking GM all like I ain't dealing with y'all.
Right.
This ain't my life.
Exactly. Right. I just get to read and enjoy.
Exactly. Man. Well, look, I got to ask you about the Kyrie trade first, Billy, because I know it's a different owner and a different group than what you have, but it's the same pressure in Brooklyn. And what is that, man? What is it like being up in Brooklyn when you got this 5 million pound behemoth you're trying to fight every day with the Knicks, trying to get on the back page and win games and win fans and all that? What is that pressure like to have to do something at the deadline?
Well, for us, it was going into when we were in New Jersey for the first years, and then we had new building open. So we knew we had to go in with, we had to have a team going in. So that was the pressure I faced. Every board meeting was like, we got to have stars. We got to have something as we open the new building. So that was an internal pressure that I always faced. And then Prokhorov put out there when he bought the team, they're going to win the championship for 5 years. So that was another internal pressure that we had to face. But, I never really focused so much on trying to beat the Knicks and be better than the Knicks, because they have years of tradition, and to me it was like, how do we build something that people in Brooklyn can be proud of? So I was always trying to find guys that fit the mold of being Brooklyn. When I moved there, living in Brooklyn, I got a feel for Brooklyn, so I was trying to find people that fit that, and we went for it, didn't work, and tried to retool, and then Sean retooled it, and he went for it, and now he's in that retool mode.
That has to be. I mean, I always say New York's the best place to live if you're doing well. You know what I mean? Like, if you're successful, it's great, but everybody has struggles and strife during their careers and things, and it's got to be incredibly difficult to kind of have to put yourself out there and take a risk. It's a risk, right? Like, bringing in Garnett and Pierce is a risk, even though they're great players. They're older players, but it's a risk, and you got to take the shot, and I just wonder, like, where do you, what do you tap into to say, I'm just going to put them all out there. I'm going to put it on the line.
Well, I think if you're trying to win a championship, that's what you do. You look at deals. If you're trying to win, you're going all in a lot of times, and sometimes you're hesitant. But every time you make a deal, you're always in your back of mind, like, what if this backfires? What if these guys aren't what we thought they are when we're making the trade? But I think if you're competing and trying to win a championship, then you got to make deals. You got to try to make deals to do that. Otherwise, you can easily play it safe and just draft, and hopefully it works out. Very rarely it does. Very rarely do you get the chance to see the young talent develop to become those stars.
Obviously, you're not in the room in Brooklyn anymore, but like outside looking in, I mean, how wild of a position is that? Kyrie is such a superstar in a place you need to have a superstar, and they trade him and don't get a superstar back. But like, it's not like Kyrie went to jail, right? Like, it's almost like, gee, I mean, can you wear out a welcome more than that? Where it's like, you ain't really done that bad. You just done a lot of stuff that's driving me crazy that we got to get rid of a superstar. Like, it just seems like a unique situation considering the player and the talent.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're trading for a talent like that, but at some point you got to cut your losses and say what's the best for the team. And I think they got to that point to be able to do a deal that's and I think sometimes you get so caught up. Well, I don't want to lose this trade because we're trading a star. We can't. Got to bring a star back. Sometimes you just got to build a team. And I think back to Larry Brown. We were here in Philadelphia, and when we were trading Jerry Stackhouse, I think he was drafted number 3 in the draft. In his second year, we knew we needed a shot blocker, and so we went for Theo Ratliff. Not a lot of people knew who he was, and we got Aaron McKee. But it was like that's what we weren't. We weren't saying, well, we got to get a guy that was a top 5 pick. We're trying to get a center, and that to me, and I think so many times people worried about winning the press conference that you forget about doing the best deal to make the team better.
Yeah.
If you're like in a Dallas situation, how much of a trade like that is ownership? How much of it is GM, or is that completely varied per team and situation? Because that some people might say that deal won't work, or that Kyrie and Luka together won't work, and some people might think it's great. And I imagine there was division at some point in there. Like, how does that typically
Well,
work?
usually as a GM, you start the conversation or your assistant GM starts the conversation, but then you get involved. And on a deal like this, you got to go to the ownership and say, okay, this is what's on the table. And then they ask your opinion. And sometimes you may say, I'm not sure if I want to do it. And the owner goes, no, I want to do this. And so no matter what, even if you may not want to do it, when the owner says, I want to do it, you come out and say you wanted to
You
do
doing
this
it?
deal. uh, so,
Say we
yeah,
sick, boss.
yeah, yeah. You come out and say, yeah, we this is the deal we thought was best for us. But then sometimes that conversation starts at the ownership level. I think when it was Shaq to Phoenix, that was started at the ownership level, and then it trickled down to the GM to do the trade call.
Right.
But generally, the owners are involved when you're talking stars and you're talking potential signing a guy at the end if he's a free agent. You got to get the owners involved because it's their money. Uh, when you're doing a deal that is not at the magnitude of all stars, you still get the owner's blessing, but they tend to sign off on those if it's not financially crippling at all. But when it's star level, owners definitely get involved.
Would you rather have an owner that really follows it closely and has really strong opinions about players and might have, because of that, have opinions different than yours? Or do you want a dilettante who doesn't know anything, but then doesn't know anything?
I like an owner that understands sports,
Yeah.
but doesn't understand all the details of a player and stats and is so consumed with it that they're reading and buying into everything they read. The best owner I ever had was Ed Snyder, who ran it for Comcast, and Brian Roberts, because Ed understood sports and he understood trade because he ran the Flyers and the hockey. So he would tell me in sports terms, in trade terms, and scouting terms from the sports level. But when it came down to is this guy a good player, not player, he could look at the stats and he would ask me questions about age wise, where he may see his when you show him the injury of a player history, he may say, wait a minute, he's been injured this much. That's where I value his opinion, where it was more of the knowledge based of making trades, what it's done in hockey and basketball. But it's tough when you have owners that are really, really into the weeds of the analytics and numbers because there's so much information out there. You can make information read the way you want it to fit the story you want.
That sounds familiar, DA.
Yeah, a little bit.
Is there so we got a few guys who like when is a guy untradeable? It feels like nobody's really untradeable anymore. Like you got a guy like Westbrook out there with a huge contract. Like John Wall hadn't played in forever.
Right.
Are we past the days where you can move any, or are we to the point where you can move anybody if you just find I don't want to say sucker, but find somebody who believes.
Well, I always believe that you can trade anybody. I've always felt that way when I've had owners when I've signed guys who deal the owner goes, you're not gonna be able to trade it. I said, promise, we can trade it. And then when they do, you go, you're right. You can always find, and sometimes it may take 2 or 3 team deals or 4 or 5 team deals, but you can trade anybody. And as DA, no, I love to put
You
four,
were the master.
put as many teams in the deal that you
I
can
don't
do
even.
it.
Have you ever done a straight up deal?
Not a lot.
It feels like you playing like Scrabble with this. Like, hold on, let's go.
Well,
Can we get a ninth team in it?
well, because as you start doing it, you think like, all right, I know they want this. Let me see if they'll take that guy. Oh yeah, then next like, oh, I can move this, and that's the fun part about trying to get deals done because you know what everybody wants, and you try to get the right pieces. So I always try to start out with 2 teams, and then it just added 3, 4, 5. It just added up somehow.
When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish that you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed's Instant Match Assessment and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed's employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. I love Indeed just because I can do all the hiring in one place. It's so easy to use, and it's honestly made my life so much easier. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates only to see it in search, according to U.S. Indeed data. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/NBA Show 22 to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/NBA 22. Indeed.com/NBA 22. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Would you be, I mean, I wonder if would you be comfortable in this age where it seems that there are that if a trade of the magnitude you like to put together was coming together and getting serious, that tends to get out a little quicker now than it used to. And would you be more gun shy about trying to put together a deal like that because you know it's going to get out?
Well, you got to know your partners who you're dealing with. There's certain guys that you can do a deal with, and it's not going to get out. So you get that part done, and once you get all the parts done, then you go bring in the people that may talk.
Yeah.
And say, look, we got to do this, but we don't have much time. I need a quick answer. And then once they say, yeah, let me talk to my owner, but I think we can do this. And then you get it moving quickly that way. You don't have time to start talking 3 and 4. You got to get the one part one-on-one going. And then you go to the other one and say, okay, would you do this? And they say, yeah. And then okay, let's go. Let's get the league involved.
See, Billy Hope, you hit a butt for me. Me and DA, we constantly hear criticism about leaks and you guys report anonymous sources. I feel like that's y'all business to work out. Why y'all not calling out the talkers? Like, do you ever go to a dude and be like, yo, why are you, I know it was you. Why you running your mouth like a neighborhood gossip? Like, you're killing us.
Well, but there's sometimes you know who they are, but you need to do a deal with them, so you just wait until.
So you can't say,
possible.
yeah, you can't. Yeah.
So you put them on blast, yeah.
Or you'll say, like, look, I'm going to just talk to you and nobody else in your staff. This has got to be between us. If it gets out, then we have no deal.
Yeah.
And so you can try to eliminate some of the people, and sometimes it may be the leak may come from on your side too. So you try to eliminate those people until you have to.
Damn.
Right?
And then sometimes when it gets to the ownership level, it leaks. So you got to wait when you present it to them. as
And
well.
you can't go to the owner and say, "Yo, man, what's up?
Yeah.
Why you leaking shit?"
Yeah.
It's such an interesting dynamic, like because you
Yeah.
gotta, and then sometimes you might want it leaked. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like sometimes you
Yeah,
might
there's
be like,
leverage
you
in
know what,
that.
we need this out there. Like, especially
Yeah.
you, Mr. Game of Thrones. You probably, I'm gonna link this to work this move to set up this 4 moves later. You know what I'm saying? So it's an odd place to be in where it's
Yeah.
like I don't want stuff to leak except for when I want it to leak, right? Like
Exactly. You want to try to control the information when you need be, and it's a delicate balance. But there was one time a GM told me, like, look, I know your coach loves the leak stuff. Let's not get him involved until we have to. So the
Right.
conversation, we would take the conversation all the way to the end, and I say, hey, by the way, we're going to do this deal, and we're having a trade call, and so then it doesn't get out.
Is it like you saw Moneyball? Is it like that scene where they're doing all these trades and the guy, and what's his name? Oh God, I'm terrible with names now. He says when they say yes, just hang up the phone. Don't talk anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. I had a team that we were making a deal, and they said, "Look, I got a yes in the room, but we got to move quickly in case they change their mind. So let's get a trade call going before my group changes their mind. Somebody gets cold feet, and so you run and do it really quick before because they say, all right. I mean, they call and say, look, we've got a yes, but we got to go quickly before somebody changes their mind. So then
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you got to call the league and give them all. Now, before you used to give the league like, I'm trading these two guys, and here's the contracts. It was all right, and you get on the call, and they ask for a certain doc. Now there's a lot more documentation you got to present to the league before you even get the trade call. So
Right.
so it takes a little longer to get that done. So you got to get all that stuff lined up ahead of time.
Is it the medicals and stuff like that?
It's medical, it's life insurance. If there's life insurance, the injury history, you got to give documentation of all that. You get if there's MRI, so you got to present all that to the league ahead of time, so then they can look at it. So when the trade call comes, they have all the information. You're not waiting on it because there in the past when I was in Philadelphia, there are times you'd be doing a trade call and you get to the end, they go, "Is there life insurance?" And the team may say, "I'm not sure we have life insurance. Let me see if I can get hold of our CFO," and then they're trying to call the CFO, and so then we got a delay for 3 hours, so they find out if we got life insurance on them, So then the trade call is put on hold until you get that information back. So that area they've done a better job in cleaning it up, so all the information is taken care of beforehand.
This podcast is brought to you by Philo. There's nothing better than unwinding and watching a little TV. But you know what's not relaxing is just trying to figure out what to watch or paying a crazy cable bill every month. That's why I decided to cut the cord. I love TV now because I use Philo as my solution. Philo is live and on-demand TV for just $25 a month. Philo has VH1, BET, AMC, A&E, plus more than 60 other channels like Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, Paramount, Discovery. You never miss a minute of shows that you enjoy watching. I always enjoy watching the Food Network is really fun. My wife and even my kids like to sit down and watch the Food Network. Has some great shows there. My wife likes to unwind and watch a little Lifetime. You know what? Philo's got it. Even MTV right here on Philo. There's no contracts, no commitments, no hassles. Just a better way to watch TV. If you got little kids, you can watch Nickelodeon. Catch the latest episode of Paw Patrol right there on Philo. Philo has no contracts, no commitments, no hassles, just a better way to watch TV. Philo has an unlimited DVR for 1 year. Save all your favorite shows, and you can watch them whenever you want. Philo also allows for multiple profiles and multiple streams, so everybody in your house can be happy, save your own shows simultaneously on 3 different streams, so you don't have to fight over what's being saved or what's being watched. It's so easy to use and really easy to sign up. You can watch from your laptop, from your phone, Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, Samsung, Android TV, you name it. With Philo, you can start watching in seconds for less money, with less hassle, and channel comfort. Sign up today at philo.tv. That's philo.tv. And use the promo code NBA Show to get 50% off your first month.
We've got a really popular general manager who contract is up. Bob Myers doesn't know if he's coming back. There's talks about, he wants to be paid more. There's, I know Bob might just go do something else. I was wondering, in light of what you're saying, like how tough is it to be a GM now in this era of social media and player empowerment movement? And how could you possibly know if you're like Bob, like what do you do? Right? Like how do you determine, yeah, I want to do this or not? Because you at some point hit that crossroad.
Well, it's one of the greatest jobs you can have if you like competition and you like competing and you like figuring trades out and rosters and personalities. But it's one of the most stressful jobs you can have too, because really everything falls on you. Whether it's the owner upset, falls on you. Players upset, the agent falls on you. The coach upset about a player, it falls on you. And your job is really, as general manager, is to manage all the personalities. And
General manager, right? You
general
manage
manager,
everybody.
yeah. And I said, yeah, it took me a while to realize what my job was, especially when I was in Philadelphia, in Brooklyn, is my job on the off days. I had to get Allen Iverson, Larry Brown to the games because then we had a chance to win. So the job was to make sure, and that's really what the general manager's job is, to make sure you get all these players and all the coaches to the game as healthy as possible to give yourself a best chance to win. Because on those off days, there's injuries, there's comments made in the paper, there's certain things. So your job is to how do you manage all that so that if you play on Wednesdays, you can get them all there Wednesday so you can play. And then when that game's over, on Friday you play again. So now you got it from Wednesday night to Friday to get them all back to that next game. So that's 82 games a year that you got to do that. And then counting playoffs.
I mean, it's literally I gotta get him to the arena on time, especially with Allen, right? So
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's almost like if you got if you got the Rolling Stones or if you had Earth, Wind and Fire, you tour managers, I got to get them to the concert. Everybody
Yeah.
bought tickets. I got to get them there, because show's over. You don't know where the next show is, and next night I got to get them there because once you get them there,
yeah, right.
they're gonna have a great performance. So your job is to get those buses going, get them to that. All right, they perform. Boom. When's the next show?
Yeah.
You know what's unique about that? Like as you talk about it, it makes me think about it. It sounds like you really gotta have a competent staff, right? And not just like assistant, but like all that lower level stuff you're talking about on the way up to like gotta be on point. But especially in the NBA, a lot of those dudes don't want to stay there, right? And they're like, so you're like, all right, I need you to be good at this, but also these people are trying to get up the ladder, so that
Yeah.
seems like another extra layer of complication.
Well, it's about communication skills. You've got to be able to communicate to the players, the agents, ownership. There's all these constituents that you've got to be able to communicate with and understand and know the vibe. Like in Brooklyn, I would sit and have breakfast when the players came in, so I can see their moods coming in. Then during lunch, I would sit there and eat lunch and just sort of see their moods going out. So I knew, okay, there may be a problem here. Let me try to hit that off. And I may call the agent, anything going on? And he give me a heads up. So then the next day I'll talk to that player. Or, it's just sort of understanding the personalities and how their vibe is going and making sure that, they all are ready to play every game.
You hear every time there's a trade to a team that already has a superstar that so-and-so team consulted the superstar. In Dallas's case, they talked to Luka and Luka was all in on the trade. And who knows if that's true or not, right?
Yeah.
Well, nobody knows if it's true. But did you constantly or consistently feel like if there's a trade coming in, I'm not looking for AI's approval, but I do have to let him know that this is happening. Was that kind of a regular thing?
Yeah, like when we did the Glenn Robinson, which it didn't work out, but I just gave him a heads up. I said, hey, we may be getting Glenn Robinson. He said, oh man, yeah, then he would get excited. Or like the Chris Webber one was really difficult because he had a trade kicker in his contract. Even though he could not get the kicker because he was already at a max salary, he still had to waive it. So Sacramento had to reach out to Chris and talk to him once he landed to get his approval, which pretty much told him they were trying to trade him. And then I reached out to Allen and said, okay, I need you to reach out to Chris to convince him, because we need him. And Allen goes, yeah, I'll make that call. So there are times that you do that. And there are times you ask for players' opinion because they know these guys. What do you think about this guy? Will he fit? And get their input, and it doesn't make it a final decision. But if they say, no, we don't want that guy, he doesn't work, or this guy's always late, or, you want to try to get their input, because if they, especially if Luka didn't want him, they wouldn't have done the deal because it's not going to work. And it just, you're giving up pieces that the deal doesn't make. So you've got to like not get his sign off on it, but you want to make sure like he's okay. If he says, yeah, I mean, I'll make it work. Or if he says, hell no, I don't want to do it, then you don't do it.
When did the trade deadline kick in really for you? Like when did it get hot? Does it feel about the same, or maybe it's happening a little bit sooner now?
I always tried to do it sooner, but just some people did, the deadline makes people want to wait and make the decision. To me, I love to try to get it done, because if you can get a deal done earlier, in like 4 or 5 days before, then it allows you to do something else. If you go to the end, then you're limited in what you can do. So I always tried to get it done as soon as possible, because even if you got it agreed upon 4 or 5 days ahead, you can almost like what they tried to do with the Brooklyn Dallas, hold it a little bit, maybe try to make it a 3-team or 4-team by adding some pieces involved.
Right.
Because once it leaks out, everybody start calling you. Hey, if you don't want so-and-so out, we'll take him. If you don't want this, we'll take him. That as soon as it leaks out, everybody starts calling, like trying to get pieces. They start calling the team that they're trading superstar from. We'll give you this, and if you got a good trading partner, they gave their word. But then you start trying to move other pieces.
When do you tell, one day do you tell the family, all right, y'all got to leave me alone now? Is that like the day before, 2 days before, the week before?
No, they just know that like the phone, you're gonna be on the
They
phone
can tell
all
by
the
the look
time.
on your face, huh?
Yeah. Well, and then I always made a point of not trying to be around the team on my cell phone at practice or on the bus or on the plane.
Optics, right?
If I was
Billy,
traveling
you're
with,
supposed to be on the phone. You got to get in their head,
because I always like, if I was at practice and the phone rang, I would never pick it up. I may walk out like I'm going to get something and then make the call back. But I tried not to be on the phone at practice during the trade deadline, because you think about it, you forget this is their livelihood and their families. I mean, they may have kids in school. I had a player that I called one time and called his house, letting him know he was traded, and his wife answered the phone, and I asked, "Is so and so there?" She goes, "Are we traded?" I go, "Is so and so there? Are we traded?" I said, "Is he there?" And she goes, "Are we trading?" If I said, "Yeah, we traded," I'm sorry. But that's the hard thing, because now it's kids got to move school. That's the real life of it. It's not, you're not just, and everybody said, well, they make a lot of money, it's okay. But these are, if you got a kid in first or second grade and all of a sudden daddy's moving, they got to move schools and they go in a new city. That's the real
Yeah,
life
money
of it.
don't stop that from being hard, right?
Yeah, and so then whenever you bring a player in, if they got a family, you try to make it as easy for them as possible. I always was trying to, like, if they needed help with schools or whatever, the families, I had my staff make sure we were there, whatever they needed, because that's the hardest thing is, we traded for Darren Williams. I mean, his wife was, I think, 8 months pregnant when we made the trade, so. And fortunately, the owners were great. We picked him up in Dallas in a Gulfstream. He flew back to Utah to be able to pack some clothes, spend some time at home, and then flew from there on the Gulfstream back, just to give him some little more extra time with her until she was able to come in.
In 2020, there were over 5 million car crashes. That's more than 15,000 a day and 600 in an hour. I had a friend that was injured in a car crash recently, and handling it with his insurance was a complete disaster. He did not get everything he was entitled to, and it was just honestly awful. What an awful situation that my friend had to go through. If you're ever injured, you should check out Morgan & Morgan. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They have over 100 offices nationwide and more than 800 lawyers. With over $15 billion recovered from clients, Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. Submitting an injury claim with Morgan & Morgan is so easy, it's more like using an app than hiring a lawyer. In fact, it's so easy, it's more like ordering takeout than hiring a lawyer. With Morgan & Morgan, you can submit a claim without even having to leave the couch. Just open up your phone, and in 8 clicks or less, you're already done. If you're ever injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/NBA show or dial pound law, pound 529 from your cell phone. That's FOR thepeople.com/NBA show or pound law, pound 529 from your cell.
I'm always fascinated by the mechanics of trades because there's just so many pieces involved. Because it's people. We all have complicated lives, we reach into a lot of different places and different directions. And I'd always wondered, like, how does that happen so seemingly smoothly? And I know it's not smooth because there's a lot of moving parts to it. And who's in charge of that? Like, who do you put in charge of get this guy's car to, Brooklyn in time for the game, or get his wife's, luggage here in time for the game, and find an apartment for them like tomorrow, or find housing for them in 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I had great staffs here in Brooklyn and in Philadelphia. I had great staffs that did a lot of that for me. So I would, well, one time we did the Stackhouse trade, as we talk about, we agreed with Detroit. We split the plane. They had a plane, so they put Jerry and Theo on the plane, and then we put they put Aaron and Theo on the plane. We put Jerry on the plane going right back. They met at the tarmac and just switched planes. And we did that with the Allen to Denver. We split the plane. They flew him in, and then Allen got on and flew back out to make it as easy as possible. But there was staff that I had in charge of, travel. There was a staff in charge of when they get here, where they're going to stay. Whether it's the equipment people, making sure they got the right equipment, luggage. So I had a lot of staff, and I made sure I was involved in every aspect of it, because to me, that if it fails, then it's going to affect the transition. When we traded for Dikembe, I'll never forget this. We get him, he flew to Philly to do his physical, and they misspelled his jersey wrong on the back of his jersey. And so, but I was in the locker room when he saw it, and I made light of it and said, we'll get it right. But then also I had to tell Mutombo that we were putting him on a plane that after his physical to Detroit, because I needed him to play in Detroit that night. And he was expecting to have the night off. I said, well, we're going to put you on a private plane, but I need you to play tonight up there after the physical.
When you're bringing in a player, especially one that you don't really know well, like, what's the process for getting to know like the kind of person you got? And then sometimes you probably already know that guy, but like for instance, you're in Dallas, like, oh, you probably just know what you read about Kyrie. Like, how do you what's the process of getting to know the person when you bring them in like that?
Well, if it's me, if I was in Dallas, I would have looked at if I know anybody in Brooklyn, did I know anybody in Boston, did I know anybody in Cleveland? Talk to our equipment people, talk to their equipment people, all of these stops to find out a little bit about them. I would have, it's been easy for me. I'd have called Coach K at Duke and got him, but I would, employ all my staff to gather as much information that they can from people that we know. Like, it's, what's his favorite hotel? If he likes to stay at, Four Seasons, or when he comes to Dallas, we're going to put him at the Four Seasons. He likes the Ritz, we're going to put him at the Ritz. So I mean, all those little things that we would try to figure out. If it's, player's wife, what is she like? When she comes, find out, is she coming with them? When's she coming? Let's make, when she gets here, is make sure how many kids they have. Right, let's make sure the kids have this when they get to the hotel. Let's make sure there's a good pack, goodie bag waiting for them. You just want to make it so that, because you only have one time to make a first impression, and so I want to make sure that first impression is one that they're like, okay, this is a first class organization.
Yeah, let me get you out on this. Do you think it's going to work in Dallas with Luka and Kyrie?
You've got two talented guys that can score, that had dominated the basketball. I think it'll work in the sense when Luka, even if he throws it to Kyrie with 6 seconds on the clock, Kyrie can get a shot. Where they can shoot a three. You're not throwing it to a guy that can't create a shot. He's one of the best shot creators. So, and both of them, I think Luka can do the same thing. So if Kyrie's throwing it to Luka with 4 seconds, he's going to get a shot. So I think, and it's just going to be the rest of the guys, to me, is the ones that got to understand their role's going to change, where there may not be as many shots. You may have to go get them off the glass, but there may be some easy layups too. So their role's got to change, and they got to realize these two are going to handle the ball and be, in order for them to be successful, they need Kyrie and Luka to take the most shots. And the other guys, it's their responsibility to get them the most shots, whether it's screening, offensive rebounds. And if they do that and they all buy in, I think it'll work. Because I think Luka and Kyrie going to try to make it work, and along with Jason Kidd, it's the other guys that need to buy in to make it work to me, because they need them to play defense, do all the little things to let those guys be the superstars they are. So I think they have a chance, because I think those other guys, there's not a lot of other guys that have that statue that say, "Hey, this is my show." So I think they're all going to buy in, and Jason's got a way of, he's been there, and so I think he'll be able to talk to those guys.
I like how you put it on Dwight Powell's shoulders. I like that. Like Dwight Powell.
Yeah, that's
well, be a team player.
It ain't wrong though.
Because if they all buy in, they all gonna get paid. Because they'll win.
That's how you got to sell it to them, right?
Yeah,
like if we win, we all eat, right? Right.
Yeah. If you want to get paid, just buy in, and everybody gonna get rewarded at the end.
Yeah. Billy, man, appreciate it as always. Love your insights,
Thank
man.
you so much, man.
Always love having you on, man. It's always good,
glad
especially this time of year, because I'm always fascinated by this time of year because it's so weird. It's so weird.
I'm happy about how happy you look.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know that. Just so you know, I was when the Kyrie asked for a trade, I was in my mind like, all right, this team could offer this. I mean, I was working deals in my head.
You had a 7-team trade ready, didn't you?
Hey, DA, he got a war room at the house. He got a war room, DA. he got all on the walls.
Right.
It doesn't leave the blood. It never leaves the blood.
Oh man. All right, y'all. Leave that 5-star review on Spotify, Google Play, Apple, wherever you get this fine American podcast. Marcus, brother, if they can't leave the 5 stars, what do they need to do?
Keep it to yourself, you haters.
Well, we're going to send you out on a commercial flight. You ain't getting no Gulfstream.
Middle seat, baby.